Good morning. It is 11:15 on the dot, and it's Vicky Midwood here live in my group Lifestyle is Health. I've also, because I don't have a guest today on Coffee Time Live, we've moved our guest who was going to be on today to a later date. So you've just got me on my own today, folks. So because it is just me, I'm sharing this on my Facebook group page. I'm also sharing it on YouTube, and it's also going on the Addiction Eliminator page as well, folks. So if you want to watch the replay, you are watching the replay, please do say #replay. If you're able to watch live, please do tell me who you are. If you're joining me from my group, it's not going to actually tell me who you are. So if you could put your name in the comments, if you are commenting from the Lifestyle is Health group. But if you're commenting from my business page, I should actually be able to know who you are. So those are the idiosyncrasies of StreamYard as a platform. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is, I think, quite an important and poignant issue. And so I decided to do this because I haven't got a guest on, because I'm going to share some stuff. And I would like some interaction if you are watching, but I also understand that this is a very delicate subject. And yes, it has been kind of prompted by what has been going on in the news this week with the interview. I'm not going to comment on what I think about any of the racism or the royal family stuff at all. I think there's enough people doing that on social media, and I'm not going to put my oar in with anything. At the end of the day, we don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, and what we're presented in TV programs, as all of you know, gets edited and put together in a way that is obviously going to make us want to stay watching it. So, that's all I'm going to say. But what I am going to talk about is the mental health side of things, because I think it's really important, especially with what is going on through lockdown. And I know that I have put a poll in here, and I talked about it on Wednesday, about whether you're feeling anxious about going back out into the real world. But kids have gone back to school already. And I know that there are some parents who are delighted about it. And I think majority are, because they want some kind of sense of normality. But there's still a little edge of not knowing. They could get sent home if their test proves to be positive, but we've still got the whole bubble issue. So there's still an element of uncertainty for all of us moving forward, and this is something that your brain does not like. And so I've said on the topic title that I'm talking about mental health, and I'll be quite honest, I hate that term, mental health, because it has so many negative connotations. And when I talk about health, I don't separate the body, the physical body, your arms, your limbs, your organs, internal organs, from your brain and your head. So when I talk about health, I talk about whole body health, because how you feel and think is very much directly correlated to how you are physically, and how you are physically is very much correlated to how you are feeling and thinking inside your own head. And what I do want to share with you is that we create a lot of our own stressors. And I spoke about this again on Wednesday. Yes, there are mechanical stressors where we overload the body with just too much, or we do too much exercise, or we don't do enough exercise. Both cause mechanical stressors. We can also overload with stress when it comes to eating too many inflammatory foods, too much processed crap, too much sugar, too much alcohol. That is also going to create stress. But those things are also going to affect our thought processes, and they're definitely going to affect anxiety and mood. And this is the bit where I don't like to separate the mind from the body, because what your body actually breaks down and fully assimilates and utilizes from your food is the stuff that helps your brain to function well, helps you to feel calm, helps you to manage stress and anxiety, or not. And this is why it's so important that we, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and feel free to not agree with me, because I don't want everybody to agree with me. Please put your comments in, put your thoughts in. But if we separate the mind from the body, we somehow think that it doesn't matter if we don't drink enough water, that somehow it doesn't matter if we are in a house where there is lots of damp and there is lots of mold. it matters massively as far as how your brain is going to function, and therefore your mood and your thoughts. And our thoughts are what dictate our decisions. And our decisions are then the things on which we decide to take actions or not take actions. So why is that important if I'm talking about mental health type of issues? Well, what was brought up in that interview was that she was feeling suicidal at times. And whatever your thoughts on how that interview was presented and whether you believe that or not, what I do want to talk about is it's a serious issue. If somebody is feeling that way, it's a horrific place to be, and I can say that with first-hand and second-hand knowledge. Some of you know my story, some of you don't, but you may know about my dad's story too. My dad did commit suicide, and he kind of, I believe in one sense, let me know in a roundabout way that was his intention. And he didn't actually come out with the words, but the way that he was talking and the stuff that he was saying and the body language and stuff, I kind of got an inkling that that's what he perhaps might do. So when he did do it, I wasn't perhaps as surprised and shocked as other people. Now, does that mean to say I was okay with it? Not especially, but did I absolutely understand it? 100%. Why? Because I'd been there. Not only have I been there and tried to commit suicide 3 times, but I've seen my mum be there too. So this is stuff that I am really, really familiar with. So when somebody says that is how they are feeling, it is not something to be taken lightly or with a pinch of salt. Does that mean then that we should just talk about how to talk them out of it? No. Chances are that they have got anxiety issues and their brain is consistently and continuously going over things that may happen in the future, or things that have happened in the past, or conversations that have happened very, very recently, which perhaps they'd handled differently. And all of that stuff affects very much how we feel and therefore what decisions we think we're going to make. And that in and of itself affects the choices that we make in regards to how we look after ourselves, in regards to how much sleep we're getting. If your mind is racing and you can't seem to switch it off, you're unlikely to be sleeping particularly well. If you're not sleeping that well, chances are that you are going to use things or try to use things that will distract you, whether that's being on your phone or whether it is getting up and cleaning the house or whatever it happens to be, which means that over time, the lack of sleep in and of itself is going to create issues, for the simple reason that if you don't sleep properly, your body cannot, and your brain in particular, cannot get rid of all the crap from the day. And some of you have heard me talk about your lymphatic system is the system that we desperately need to work well, especially when we're talking about viruses and stuff, because that is the stuff that gets rid of toxins and pathogens and things that shouldn't be there. So we need a good, fully functioning lymphatic system, but we also need a good, fully functioning glymphatic system. That's, if you like, the lymphatic system for your brain. And that's when the brain gets the opportunity to clear out all of the toxins and the crap and stuff that builds up over the day. And if you don't get sleep, if you don't get decent quality sleep, if you don't get regular sleep, then that is not going to happen. So over time, we've got, if you like, brain debris. Think of it like a littered street, and think of, if you like, the glymphatic system kind of brushing away all of the litter. But if you're only brushing away a bit of it every day, and it's going to accumulate on a day-to-day basis, you can see why your thoughts can become very much darker and harder for you to be able to get out of that sense of doom, and because you're not able, because your brain is not functioning as well as it could, because you're just not able then to be able to see things slightly differently. And being able to see things from a different perspective when you are in that state of feeling suicidal is a tall order. Believe me, you need to be able to have somebody who is not going to tell you what to do, because that's not helpful at all. And you just need to have somebody who is prepared to listen to what you have to say. Because the longer this stuff is going around in your head, the more damage it does. And there's an old saying that we used to have in recovery when I was in AA, and it goes like this: if it stays in your head, you're dead. Right? Now that sounds really extreme, but oftentimes, people who have alcohol addictions, and I was one of those, they can't find a way themselves to be able to stop. Usually they've tried to cut down and control it and try moderate drinking and all of those things that you read about, right? But just not able to, fail every single time. When it becomes an issue that you are struggling financially to be able to feed your habit, there is another stressor add on to the top of that. And if you can't possibly see any way out of that pattern because you just don't know and your brain is not functioning properly or well enough, then there only appears to be one option, and that is to just check out. Right. And I absolutely get it. As I say, I tried 3 times. Obviously, I failed. First time, I think, was more of it was to get me out of a situation. It was manipulative. And I absolutely was 100% clear that it was not going to do anything drastic, but it got me out of a situation and it worked. It was me being manipulative. And I know that that's come up about the interview. Do people use it as manipulation? And unfortunately, the answer is potentially yes. But does that mean that they are any the less people from a needing help point of view? Absolutely not. What it did for me was to bring to light that my problems with food were much bigger than I'd been letting on. That's what it brought to light. Now, unfortunately for me, it meant that I didn't get the right sort of help, purely and simply because the right sort of help just wasn't available. People did not know back then. I'm talking when I was, how old was I? I think it was 15 or 16, the first attempt. People just back then didn't have the knowledge that they do about bulimia and disordered eating. They certainly didn't have the knowledge of understanding food sensitivities or gut microbiome driving you to going for those foods. They certainly didn't understand the importance of vitamin and mineral deficiencies in those whole issues. And they certainly didn't understand the issues that I'd had with far too many antibiotics and with issues with my thyroid, which were also an issue with my mum. Now, all of that stuff we now know. So had that happened today, potentially, I would have gotten better help. I'm saying potentially, and I'm kind of saying that tongue in cheek. The likelihood is it probably would have been pretty much the same, and it probably will be pretty much the same as what it was back then, to be honest. The point is, it brought things to light, and it meant that there could be conversations. The second time was a little bit more drastic. I was way into my drinking, and yeah, I could not see a way out at all apart from that. And of course, it failed again, but it did land me in hospital with a blood clot for over a month. I was not allowed to get out of bed. I had to use bedpans and all that good stuff. It was not great. Did it stop me drinking? No. It didn't. I ended up going back to it. Why? Because I did not have the tools. I did not understand my thought process. I didn't understand that I could think in a different way, that there were alternatives. I only had one pair of glasses. I could only see things from one perspective. I did not know how to look at things differently. And this is important stuff to bring to light, folks, because if you're in a family environment and you're with the same people day in, day out, and that's what we have all been in lockdown, it's very difficult to be able to see things from another perspective because we only know what is around us. And so the point of me doing this today is to try and say to anybody who either is feeling that their brain is taking them to wanting to end it all because they're really struggling with their thoughts and what is going on, and the idea of a future, just they can't even imagine it, never mind see themselves living it. If that's you, or if it's somebody you know, I want to urge you to speak out to somebody who you trust, right? And that's not necessarily a family member who, for all the right reasons, because they love you dearly, is going to try and just kind of tell you it's all going to be okay and you'll be all right, because that's not helpful, and you don't want to hear it, and you certainly do not believe it. So you need to be able to speak to somebody who perhaps doesn't know you very well. So this is where Samaritans and this is where charity phone call lines really do come into play. Or speak to somebody who you know, like me, or another kind of coach who understands just what it's like to have been on the brink of wanting to end it all, but has obviously not and come out the other side. Because when you can talk to somebody who will listen, who won't judge you, who won't tell you what you should do, but will just allow you to talk about your feelings without any kind of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but not judgment, but without any kind of condescension or, any kind of thought process that this is bad in any way. Just let you speak and talk about how you feel, even if you can't put it into very good words, like I'm not doing at the moment. But if the words won't come out clearly, but we'll just let you just talk and let it out, whatever it is, whether you're crying 1 minute, whether you're hysterical the next minute, let it out with somebody that you trust who can hold that space for you. And you might just find that that is the very thing that you actually did need to help you to just feel better and to be able to face the next day. And all I'm going to say to you is there is no quick fix and there is no easy answer. But if we can all just hold on to this idea, well, it's not an idea, it's a fact. We all only have the same 24 hours in a day. And we can start our day and we can restart our day as many times as we like. So just because you feel your morning has been shit does not mean that the rest of the day has to be. We can draw a line under it and we can just go, okay, I'm going to take some deep breaths. I'm going to take myself out to a different environment, whether it's going into a different room, whether it's moving your body and doing some quick burst exercises, or whether it's go take a shower and doing a complete kind of body massage while you're in the shower and just connecting to your body and telling yourself that you love yourself and you can just restart your day in any way, shape, or form it takes. You don't have to continue having a bad day. You don't have to continue feeling like there is no hope. The other thing that I want to just kind of touch on is really be careful what you're watching and what you're tuning into on social media and on the news. If you know that the news is going to affect you badly, and this is one thing that I had with my mum. Again, for those of you who don't know my story, my mum was diagnosed as manic depression. I question that now because I know what I know about the mind and body connection, and I know she had issues with thyroid. She had part of her thyroid gland removed and she was not on any kind of medication to help her to manage that. What I know for a fact is that there are hundreds and thousands of people out there with a manic depressive diagnosis who have thyroid issues. And if those were addressed properly with lifestyle, with vitamins, with minerals, and in some cases with medication for thyroid, they would not be in the state that they're in on the horrific set of medication that usually people with manic depression end up being on, such a cocktail of things that creates horrendous side effects. But my mum was affected massively by the news. And so when I went to stay with her, and I did end up staying with her a few times over the years of me being a grown-up, until we had to put her in a home for her own safety. But she was affected massively by the news and I had to ban it. I just had to say, you are not allowed to watch it. It is not helpful to you at all, because she would fixate on things and that would keep her in that whole loop of the doom and gloom thinking. She also smoked and she drank a lot of coffee and she didn't particularly eat very well. Sometimes she just couldn't be bothered to make food for herself. And I completely get that, right? I absolutely do. So if you're living on your own and this is how you're feeling, unwittingly, if you are turning to alcohol or to coffee or to energy drinks to try and give you a mood lift or to cigarettes, you're unknowingly keeping yourself stuck in that kind of suicidal, low mood, depressive type of thinking. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard to make those changes, but little by little, if you can talk to somebody who gets where you're right now and who doesn't put too much pressure on you, but helps to guide you very steadily and slowly through making some of those changes, what you will find by default is that you will start to feel better. So I will be talking more about this subject in depth, particularly about suicide. But for those of you who are struggling either with a family member who is feeling that way, or if you're feeling that way yourself, I implore you, speak to somebody who you can trust, who will allow some space for you to just be heard. And on that note, I know it was quite a serious one today, but I really think it had to be addressed. I wish you a lovely Friday, whatever you get up to. Stay safe, stay well, get out in the sunshine if you can, get some fresh air, have a change of energy by changing your environment, and I'll speak to you really soon. Bye.